Hi, I'm Doug Hocking, and I'd like to talk to you today about the Lost Ark. The Lost Ark is something very real, well attested to, and it's been lost for close to 2,600 years. It appears in my book, The Mysteries of Chaco Canyon. That book goes into the real archaeological mysteries of the Southwest. The real archaeology, and it draws on and solves these mysteries, along with the mysteries of some things that archaeologists tend to dismiss because they don't fit in with the common theories, with what's accepted. The book, Mystery of Chaco Canyon, draws on Southwest history, uh, Southwest archaeology, as well as Masonic history, the history of the Knights Templar, the histories of the Israeli state, and the Bible. And I found that people weren't as familiar with the Bible as we might have liked them to be. Mystery of Chaco Canyon is an historic fiction. Real characters from the past doing what they were doing, and real Southwest mysteries. The Ark of the Covenant is described in Exodus 25, verses 10 to 16. It's rather thoroughly described. Moses says that this is how God told us to build it: out of wood, cover it with gold leaf. On top, there will be two angels with their wingtips touching. On the side, there will be rings so you can insert poles to carry it. Inside the ark, he was told to place the tablets on which the Ten Commandments were written, as Moses said, by the hand of God, along with some of the manna that the Israelites ate during their 40 years of wandering in the desert. The rings on the side are so no one has to touch it. The ark can only be touched once a year by the high priest, who sits on what is called the mercy seat, the space between the angels, to beg forgiveness for the sins of Israel during the year. The ark is attested to all through the Bible, and its power is attested to. If the ark went before the armies of the people of Israel, they could lose no battle. They took it with them. They kept it in the tent of the tabernacle for several centuries uh, during the time of the judges, during the time of King Saul and King David. David was not allowed to build the temple. His son Solomon was. While the ark was being taken by the armies, it was in a cart, and the cart began to tip over. One of the keepers, described in 2 Samuel 6, verses 6 and 7, was Uzzah. And Uzzah reached out to steady the ark so that it wouldn't fall over, and was struck dead because he had touched this object that was entirely too sacred to be touched by anyone but the high priest. In 1 Kings 6, 2 to 38, we find a description of the temple that Solomon built. It's based on the original tabernacle. We are told of its furnishings, and that the ark was placed inside, and there it remained for over 300 years behind a curtain. And once a year, the high priest was allowed to enter and sit upon the mercy seat to beg forgiveness for sin. Other temple furnishings are described, among them the golden menorah, which was filled with oil and used as it was a lampstand that burned the oil, 7 branches and solid gold. There was also a table in the temple, one covered with gold leaf, on which there was always bread. And in the temple were stored the trumpets of truth, which were blown as the Israeli armies went into battle. The menorah is described in Exodus 25. These items were also kept in the temple along with the ark until 587 BC, about 2,600 years ago, when the Babylonians lay siege to Jerusalem and eventually breaking in, sacked and burned the city and sacked the temple. They took the people of Israel away into the Babylonian captivity, and they remained in Babylon for 70 years until they were allowed to return under the leadership of Jeremiah, who built the second temple to replace the first. When the Babylonians marched out of Israel, they were proud of what they'd done. They took along with them the menorah, the table of the showbread, and the trumpets of truth, and they carved them on a stela in Babylon, which you can go and see to this day, bragging of their accomplishment. What's missing from their stela is the Ark of the Covenant. Surely they'd have bragged of it if they'd gotten it. Some say that the Ark was taken out of Jerusalem. One theory is that it went to Ethiopia, to the family of the Queen of Sheba. Now, 1 Kings 10 records the Queen of Sheba coming to see King Solomon. And legend has it that they had an assignation of some sort. But I think in 300 years, their ardor might have cooled somewhat. Sheba, we now know, was a place on the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula. Sometimes it's linked to Ethiopia, just across the Red Sea. And the Ethiopians today have a temple where they claim that the Ark of the Covenant resides. But of course, we can't see it because only the high priest is allowed to see it once a year. It seems very unlikely with the special handling required and the ceremony accompanying movement of the ark that the ark could have gotten out of Jerusalem through the Babylonian lines. I think Sheba is probably out. I think that the ark had to remain in Jerusalem, but then why wasn't it found? I usually question anyone who says, well, they dug a tunnel and hid it in the tunnel. It takes a long time to dig a tunnel through hard rock. We sped up the process once we had giant powder, dynamite, where you could drill all day in the rock and then place dynamite and blow a few feet of rock away. Expensive, time consuming. And before that, they used iron bars. But of course, 587 BC is before the Iron Age. We're talking bronze tools. So what they did was lit a fire and heated up the rock face until it was as close to red hot as they could get it. And then they threw a bucket of cold water on it, which fractured the rock. A slow, difficult, and very dangerous. You could get scalded to death or suffocate. And very dangerous way to dig tunnels. And yet we know that there are many tunnels under Jerusalem. Tunnels that were made very often to carry water over centuries. Tunnels that represent streets that used to be at ground level and now are covered with the rubble and detritus of collapsing city. And we know that there are tunnels under the Temple Mount. The Temple Mount is currently occupied by the Dome of the Rock, a Muslim shrine, and they will not let anyone approach on top of the rock or under. But we can see the entrance to the tunnels. We just can't go there. And it seems very likely that the Ark resides in those tunnels, or at least was there for a time. We know that there was a first temple from Solomon. We know that there was a second temple built by Jeremiah to replace the first. We know that Herod, just before the time of Jesus, refurbished Jeremiah's temple, and that was the temple that Jesus knew. We know that the ark was there until 587 BC, and that it has not been seen since. Wow, it really is a lost ark. Where could it possibly have gone? I will do future videos talking about this, explaining some of the background to the mystery of Chaco Canyon, which you can purchase from Amazon or from DougHawking.com. If you get it from DougHawking.com, it comes signed. I hope you'll take a look, and I hope that you will elect to follow me on YouTube and see my future videos. Hope you found this interesting. Have a good day.